What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Let's talk about some games in Week 3 that are piquing my interest from an upset watch perspective, and there's none bigger than the game happening in Atlanta, Georgia. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets come into this one. A lot of people picking the upset as the Clemson Tigers have struggled in the early part of the season. This is a veteran Clemson team that wouldn't shock me if they turned it on this week, and it's what makes this one so interesting. It's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. That's the Clemson Tigers from Bobby Dodd. It's going to be a fun one in Atlanta. My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. I'm a sports media graduate with a massive passion for everything going on in the wide world of sports, and especially the world of college football. You want to hear everything I have to say during the college football season? Well, go hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you're locked into everything I have to say about college football this year. And if you want to follow me on a more personal note, you want to join me in my journey to reach as high as I can in the professional world of sports media, then follow me on social media at TailgateNate29, Twitter, Instagram, and wherever else you want to peruse the socials. Thank you for supporting and interacting me, however you may be doing so. And thank you, Scotty, for telling me there was no audio on the previous video. You can tell it's later in the day because I moved to the glasses. That's okay. We'll sit down. We'll talk about this one again. You guys know I love talking ball. Same thing with Florida and LSU. That also will be back out later tonight. Same issue there. Something must have happened with the audio in both of those videos. Microphone not picking up, whatever it may be. Clemson and Georgia Tech, must-watch television for all of you out there. This is a noon game, going to happen on ESPN, and it is must-see TV because this game right here already felt kind of big and important to me at the start of the season, and now to me it feels even bigger. I know there were a lot of people overlooking this game, not giving it the credit that I thought it deserved in the preseason. This is an absolutely massive game, and the result of this match here could very well do a lot for the ACC championship game picture, and especially a lot for the college football playoff hopes of these two respective teams. But I want to start this video out with Clemson because I want to say, man, overall, compared to relative expectations, it's no secret that they have been disappointing so far this year. You go out and you lose to LSU, well, okay, bounce back next week against Troy, and then they look awful, especially in that first half. And I'll just tell you right now, you get in that much of a deficit and you look that horrendous offensively, defensively, all over the field against this Georgia Tech team, well, this is no Trojan side. The Yellow Jackets are a lot more fierce, they're a lot more physical, and Clemson is not going to find their way back from a 16-0 halftime deficit against this Georgia Tech team. That's the way I firmly believe. If Georgia Tech gets up big, going to be hard for Clemson to come back. And Clemson needs a couple things to happen, especially offensively, to put themselves in the best position possible in this game. One, I know they're really banged up at wide receiver. I get that, but they have got to find a way to get this passing attack going a little bit more. I believe it's Williams that's the injured wide receiver, so we'll see if he can come back and play. But more importantly, you need the physical attribute of the offense to step up. You need this run game to find some rhythm. Let me read you Clemson's rushing stats as a team on the year. Clemson as a team this season has, I believe, 51 carries for 151 yards. That is it. They are averaging less than 80 yards per game. They only have 3 yards per carry. And Cade Klubnik with sack yardage and everything is into the negatives, and he's taken off every now and again, but it's not like Haynes King is going to do over with this Georgia Tech side. But a lot of the rushing attack has fallen into the arms of Adam Randall from a running back perspective. We have not seen a lot of Gideon Davidson. We have not seen a lot of really anybody else. No one besides Randall and Klubnik has double-digit carries. In fact, no one has more than 3 so far this year. So Adam Randall, they're looking at being the guy. And look, let's be honest, he's performed not too bad so far. 4.9 yards per carry, has the 2 rushing touchdowns this Clemson offense does have. He's not really been too bad, but this run game as a whole is so inept compared to what I thought it was going to be this year. That's a real problem coming into a game against a Georgia Tech team that is going to be able to slow down the run. And, well, they got a quarterback and running back duo of their own that's pretty darn good at running the football. But the other part of this Clemson offense that needs to take a step forward, and the Clemson coaching staff has said it, they are very concerned with how Cade Klubnik is being protected when he drops back to pass. This offensive line has got to take that step forward. You've got to be able to give your senior quarterback time to drop back and throw. And I know, granted, there's some injuries and things at wide receiver. This is still a very talented wide receiver room, but the offensive line, man, they really have not been that sharp so far to start the year. Now, I know Klubnik has only been sacked 3 times, but if the coaching staff is coming out and saying, hey, man, we're starting to get a little concerned with how he's being protected by his offensive line, that's a problem. And for a Clemson team that's supposed to be one of the most physical in the country, they were getting pushed around quite a bit by that LSU front, and even Troy at points was bullying this offensive front. They were getting pressure in the face of Klubnik with a 4-man rush. Troy, that should not be happening for this Clemson team, and that's no slight to Troy. I think the Trojans have a lot of good talent, but for the talent that's on this Clemson team, a better product has to be put on the field offensively. We hope that their wide receiver room can get healthy, but they've got to be able to find that ground game and overall increase the physical attributes and get them to be better on the offensive side of the ball. Offensively for Georgia Tech, well, Haynes King was out last week, and yet they poured on almost 800 yards of total offense onto the Gardner-Webb Bulldogs. Maybe I'm exaggerating that number. I'll look at it. I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But this Georgia Tech team, even without Haynes King, was on fire, as you kind of expect it to be. And yes, I did drop it down 100, nearly 700 yards. They had 680 yards of total offense there against the Gardner-Webb Bulldogs. But the Yellow Jackets look really dangerous already, despite literally the first 7 minutes of the season, where they turned the football over 3 times on the road against Colorado. They've been pretty good. The offenses look good. Even when they were turning the football over, the defense was not allowing Colorado to capitalize off of them. And now you got Haynes King probably coming back. And if he's even remotely 100% healthy, it would behoove me to believe that Haynes King is not going to play in this game. He's going to play. He's going to have an impact. I think we all know that. But then Jamal Haynes is going to be another piece that this Clemson defense, pointing the wrong way, that this Clemson defense is going to have to factor in. However, I think while Clemson has got to find this running game in some aspect, you just have to be able to set the tone on the ground. I really don't have a problem with Georgia Tech being able to do that. I think they're going to do that. They have the assets to do it. They've done it against everybody. But this pass game has got to be able to find a rhythm. Now, it did last week, but that was Gardner-Webb. It did against Colorado to a certain point. Well, okay, that's Colorado. You can say what it wants. Overall, though, not too effective against the Buffs, and Haynes King does not even have a passing touchdown. But again, it's what King and Haynes do on the ground that is so impressive and so fun to watch. I think you got to be able to test this Clemson secondary in this game, be able to throw a couple things deep. You have some talented wide receivers here in this room. Eric Rivers, I think, has been underutilized. Look, for him to possibly have a big afternoon here. Stockton, Patterson, Allen has the 1 catch for 78 yards. You've got to be able to get this wide receiver room a little bit more involved. Now let's talk about the defensive game plans, because for me it's pretty simple, especially for Georgia Tech. Getting pressure on Cade Klubnik is a definite. It's a must. It's a necessity. Everybody's been able to force pressure with Clemson, and if Georgia Tech is going to do what Troy did last week and get pressure with 4, that's going to spell a big amount of doom for this Clemson team. But for Clemson defensively, if you can contain Haynes King, I think you have a pretty good plan in place. And the linebackers for Clemson, they're one of the best linebacking units in the country, despite some of the struggles this team has had. And it's going to be able to, I think, have a pretty solid game plan against Haynes King, just because they're so fast onto the ball. They do everything really, really well in that Clemson second level. But here's the problem. Haynes King is not the only part of this offense. You put a spy on him, great, that's fantastic. What about Jamal Haynes running right through your teeth? And Clemson's got some big boys on that D-line. They haven't performed that well as of late. This is just a very scary situation for Clemson, because the Yellow Jackets have frankly looked better than the Clemson Tigers period. I don't think that's much of a debate. And they're no stranger to upsets. They beat Miami last year. They almost beat Georgia in an 8 overtime thriller. They've knocked off Florida State when it was ranked in the past, gave some other ranked teams a really, really close fits. And this is the Georgia Tech team that I believe should be ranked, should be looked upon more seriously. And I think they're going to get the outright upset here. I'm picking Georgia Tech to beat Clemson. The Yellow Jackets sting the Tigers, and I think they get it done. If Clemson comes out flat, it could be a lot wider of a margin than this. By the way, all lines and odds, as of recording this video, they are subject to change. However, I just think Clemson's got a little bit too much to fix. I think they'll get some things going, like maybe the offensive line gets better in pass pro, and maybe the run game gets better, and maybe this defensive front's going to create a little bit more pressure and make life hectic. And all three very well could happen because it's a veteran team. But against this Georgia Tech side, I think they're too dangerous. The Yellow Jackets win, and they pull the upset, making the ACC race very interesting. Let me know your thoughts about this game in the comment section below. I can see the levels. We have audio. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all y'all in the next video. Goodbye.